Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. Is this a long one?
It shouldn't be. Depends on how distracted you get.
You're the one telling it.
You're Miss Interrupter.
It's called contribution. But where are we headed to today?
Today we'll be in a place where there's a mysterious bear circle.
Like is it naked?
Yeah, actually.
A naked circle?
It's a bear circle legend in the woods where nothing grows. So it's naked ground. Legend says the devil walks circles there at night, and some locals swear the area is cursed.
New Mexico.
This place has a state park called Hanging Rock, located near an abandoned settlement where miners and farmers once lived. Locals swear it too is haunted, and hikers report hearing footsteps and whispers in the fog.
Colorado.
This place also has a population of albino squirrels that locals treat like celebrities.
What?
Okay. Here's a better hint. Their state bird is the northern cardinal.
I knew you were going to say the cardinal.
All right, we'll go multiple choice. North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, or West Virginia. Pick
Indiana.
North Carolina.
You really like the Carolinas.
Yeah.
Albino squirrels, though.
Yeah.
All right.
So I know this case is going to be a few weeks before Christmas. To bring in the Christmas season, today's tragic case occurs on Christmas Day in 1929. While most families are gathering around their trees, sipping hot cocoa, and avoiding political arguments at the dinner table, one family in rural North Carolina is about to meet the kind of ending that would make Krampus look like Santa Claus.
Krampus?
Yeah, like the cranky Santa, the evil Santa.
I thought that was Krampus. Is it Krampus?
It's Krampus.
Whatever.
I think Crumpin' is that dance that looks like you're having a seizure.
I thought that was Crunkin. I don't know.
We're old, as my boy likes to point out.
Kraken? That's my knees.
That's an octopus.
Oh.
So today we're diving into the Lawson Family Massacre, a tale of rural hardship, whispered secrets, and a shocking murder-suicide. And one man who would ensure that Christmas would forever be remembered for not joy, but for terror. No one could have suspected that Christmas 1929 would flip their story from ordinary to a horror legend. But before we get into the bloody events of Christmas Day, it's important to remember the victims, not just as names, but as people. Up first is the patriarch, Charlie Lawson. He was born in the hills of Stokes County, North Carolina in 1886, which was just about as rural as it gets. He was one of 8 kids raised dirt poor, with farming being not just a job, but a way of survival. Imagine a life of endless tobacco fields, red clay dirt, and poverty so thick it stuck to you like the mud on your boots. By all accounts, Charlie was not a standout kid. No one said he was particularly mean as a child, but he wasn't the one telling jokes at the barn dances either. He was hardworking, quiet, and very much a product of his environment. We're going to fast forward to adulthood because, like I said, there's nothing that stands out about
Standoutish.
Yeah. Charlie's life is a blueprint of Southern farm living. He was in his early 20s when he fell in love with a local girl. Her name was Fanny Manring. The background info is limited on Fanny. Her birth year isn't even clear. She was born in 1888 or 1890, depending on the source. But the picture I found of her headstone, it looks like she was born in 1892. But Charlie was around 22 when he married Fanny, who would have been around 16 to 18. Together they built a life the only way poor farming families in the Piedmont knew how. Through hard work, long days in the fields, and a whole lot of free farm hands, also known as children. Charlie and Fanny would have 8 children. Sadly, their third child, a son named William, died of some sort of illness when he was around 5 or 6 in 1920. That left 7 kids, all living in a cramped farmhouse with chores, tobacco farming, and not much else. Life on the farm was grueling, but not abnormal for the time. The family was respected in the community. If anything, they looked like your average hardworking farm clan. But behind the smiles was a man with a violent streak, worsening health, and possibly even darker secrets. Charlie was considered a decent enough feller. He was stern, a bit controlling, and had a bit of a temper. The only standout event in his adulthood came in 1927 when Charlie suffered a serious injury while working on the farm. Some said he was never quite the same after that accident. Science now tells us that traumatic brain injuries can flip personalities, spark violence, or even cause paranoia. Back then, people would just shrug and say, he got his bell rung.
So he got hit in the head. What was the accident?
I'm going to tell you. Charlie accidentally took an axe to his noggin.
Whoa.
Some sources say it fell for my imagination purposes. I pictured it like many of the fail videos you can watch online nowadays. And I pictured Charlie cranky or going out to split some firewood. And when he swung the axe, it bounced backwards and whacked the shit out of his head. But his neighbors had noticed something off about Charlie after that boo boo. He was just never the same man after that. After that head injury, Charlie developed a very mean streak. It came and went like the summer storms, in sudden bursts of temper, followed by stretches of brooding silence. He'd sometimes sit on the porch in complete silence for hours, staring at nothing in particular. One neighbor described him as quiet, but too quiet, like he was holding something in. Other nights, Charlie would pace in the fields, mumbling to himself.
Oh.
No one could put a finger on it, but everyone sensed Charlie was changing. Fanny, his wife, on the other hand, she was described as a quiet woman with callous hands and a soft heart.
Oh.
She did a lot of work.
I gotcha. It's just okay.
She was the kind of mother who could soothe a crying infant with just a hum and a gentle touch. Fanny was deeply religious, always attending church, and often lending a helping hand to others in the community. She never sought recognition or praise. Her days were filled with small, selfless acts that kept the household running. On the rare occasions she smiled, it was genuine, lighting up a face that had known more worry than joy. She'd spent her entire life on the farm, waking before dawn to start chores, cooking, cleaning, and making sure her children had clean clothes and enough to eat. In a house full of 7 children and one difficult husband, she was the glue holding everything together. Marie, she was 17. She's the eldest child. She was already shouldering the responsibilities of a second mother. Thoughtful and beautiful, she helped Fanny keep the household in order and guiding her younger siblings with a gentle but firm hand. Neighbors remembered her as quiet, polite, and very serious beyond her years. She appeared to be someone who seemed to understand more about the world than anyone her age should. Arthur was 16 and the eldest son. He was already treated like a second father to his siblings. He was a hardworking teenager accustomed to long days in the fields and helping with the chores. He was practical and reliable, and he often acted as a buffer between his father and younger siblings. Carrie was 12 and full of youthful energy and curiosity, always ready with a smile or a small joke. She had a love for school and reading, which set her apart from the otherwise work focused Lawson household. She had an innocent and playfulness that shined through with her bright spirit. Mabel was 7. Little Mabel was shy but affectionate, clinging to her older siblings for comfort and guidance. She loved simple pleasures, playing with dolls, helping her mom Fanny in small ways, and exploring the fields near the house. At 7, she was at the cusp of childhood imagination, a world of games and wonder that would be cruelly interrupted by Christmas morning's events. James was a typical 4-year-old boy, curious, energetic, and prone to mischief. He spent his days following his older siblings around the farm and getting into things he wasn't supposed to. Raymond was 2, barely out of infancy. He was sweet, dependent, and still learning to talk and walk with the help of his family. His life was tiny and fragile, filled with simple rhythms of childhood, nap time, meals, and cuddles. Mary Lou was the youngest of all the Lawsons. Mary Lou had just begun to experience the world, soft coos, tiny hands, and the warmth of her mother's embrace. At 4 months old, she was just a baby who hadn't even lived long enough to learn her first words. Now, here's where things get strange. Just before Christmas, Charlie took his entire family into town for something no one expected: a professional family portrait and brand new clothes. For a poor family in 1929, it was almost unheard of. Clothes were usually patched and handed down, but not bought new. And paying for a professional portrait, that was pure luxury. But Charlie insisted. The portrait is famous today. It shows the family lined up stiffly, dressed to the nines. No smiles, just somber faces staring into eternity. Locals thought it was odd to be so frivolous, but a touching gesture from Charlie. Now on to the carnage. On the morning of December 25th, it was a cold Christmas morning. The family opened gifts, ate breakfast, and began their daily routines. At some point, Charlie sent Arthur, his eldest son, into town on an errand, and the nightmare began. Carrie, she was 12, and Mabel, she was 7. They set out to go visit their aunt and uncle, but what the girls were unaware of was a predator who lay waiting to ambush. As the girls approached the tobacco farm's barn, a shot rang out. First, 12-year-old Carrie was shot. Then 7-year-old Mabel was shot as she attempted to flee from her
Hmm.
father's wrath. Charlie had just shot both his daughters with his shotgun. Then, because apparently one method of murder wasn't enough, and he was low on ammunition, he proceeded to bludgeon their skulls to oblivion, leaving nothing left of his young daughters' heads. Then, with a chilling calm, he dragged their small bodies into the barn, carefully lying them side by side, deliberately staging their remains.
What the fuck?
Right. The next unsuspecting family member to be met with Charlie's unhinged mind was Fanny, his wife. She was on the porch preparing Christmas dinner, enjoying the crisp December air. Charlie approached his wife on the porch. He raised his shotgun and shot Fanny point blank. She crumpled where she stood, and her body was left out in the cold, a grim sight for anyone who approached the house. Charlie turned as he heard a scream from inside the house. Standing near the fireplace, peering out the window, was 17-year-old Marie, the eldest daughter. She cried out as she witnessed her father shooting her mother. Charlie stormed inside the small homestead and shot Marie, silencing her permanently. As Marie laid in a pool of her own blood, Charlie once again played puppeteer and deliberately positioned his daughter's remains. Charlie then played the most terrifying game of hide and seek. He was in search of his younger children, 4-year-old James and 2-year-old Raymond. The boys clearly understood enough to be terrified. Both boys tried to hide from their father behind furniture. Realizing there was nowhere in that small farmhouse to hide from their crazed father, the boys attempted to escape. Raymond, only being 2, clung to his big brother, 4-year-old James. The little boys cried in terror as their father turned his weapon on each of them. Charlie gunned them down in a small hallway near a bedroom as they tried to run. Somehow, the young boys didn't die after being shot, but now Charlie was nearly out of ammo. So Charlie loomed over his young son's bloodied, trembling bodies and proceeded to beat each one of his boys to death. Charlie dragged their tiny bodies, laying them alongside one another, deliberately staging their bodies as well. Now, what some consider the most horrific act of all, Charlie turned his fury to his 4-month-old infant, Mary Lou. He strangled his little baby girl with his hands before he bludgeoned her to death. Some reports say that Charlie used the butt of the shotgun, others say he used a blunt object. Either way, it was personal, it was brutal, and it was beyond comprehension. Charlie lifted the broken remains of his infant daughter and laid her battered body in her crib near her siblings, posing her chubby little baby arms folded over her chest and her head resting on a pillow. Each of the bodies of his children were carefully laid out just like baby Mary Lou. Charlie folded each one of his family members' arms across their chests and placed rocks, pillows, or folded clothes under their heads like a pillow. It was as if he was tucking them in for an eternal nap. It was part murder, part grotesque ritual. Then, Charlie disappeared into the woods. It was early in the afternoon. The Lawson family farm should have been alive with laughter, the smell of food, and maybe a carol or two drifting from the porch. Instead, there was silence. The neighbors grew concerned. No one had seen Charlie or his family since the morning. No children running around the yard, no sounds at all. It was an eerie silence looming over the Lawson farm. Curiosity turned to worry. 2 neighbors, Thomas and Harold, decided to walk the dirt path to check on the family. They noticed something strange immediately. No smoke rising from the chimney. Fanny had always had a fire going, especially in the winter. Even during hardship, there was always the smell of food cooking. And today, on Christmas, there's nothing. So instead of joy and love and the smell of food, what they found was the stuff of nightmares.
Well, isn't there somebody on the porch?
Thomas was the first to notice Fanny on the porch. She wasn't waving, she wasn't moving. She wasn't even slumped in a natural position, which I don't know what that would be.
Like she fell down? Because he posed them all, right?
Mm-hmm. Her arms were oddly crossed over her chest, her apron stained dark with blood, her eyes staring blankly at the winter sky. The Christmas morning stillness clashed violently with the horror in front of them. Harold, paralyzed for the moment by disbelief, finally yelled to Thomas that they needed to check the house. The front door creaked as it opened, and immediately the smell hit them. Iron, gunpowder, and something deeper, more primal, the stench of death. The men hesitated. They knew something horrible had happened, but they pushed forward. Inside the house, it was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound like a drum. They crept into the parlor and froze. Marie lay sprawled across the floor, arms neatly folded, a pile of clothes folded under her head. Across the small room, the young boys, James and Raymond, were nearby. All three children were dead, all shot at close range. The boys had obviously been brutally beaten. Their bodies had been posed with their arms folded across their chests as if laid out for a funeral that no one had been invited to. Their small bodies arranged for display. And then came the most heartbreaking sight, Mary Lou, the youngest at 4 months, laying in her crib. She hadn't been shot, she'd been bludgeoned, later determined to also have been strangled, but the neighbors could only see that she'd been beaten to death. I couldn't imagine seeing a 4 month old
4-month-old?
beaten to death. By this point, panic turned to dread. The neighbors stumbled backwards out of the house, disbelief clawing at them. A muffled sob escaped from Thomas's lips as he processed what happened. The men retreated from the Lawson home and ran up to the barn in search of the other 3 Lawson children and their father, Charlie. There in the barn, among the hay, in the cold December air, lay Carrie and little Mabel. Side by side, their small bodies arranged like dolls, arms crossed, heads resting on makeshift pillows of hay and stone. Both had been shot and viciously beaten. As neighbors Harold and Thomas stood there in silence, absorbing the devastating sight before them, a single gunshot blast rang out from the nearby woods, a chilling echo in the wake of such a horrid tragedy. Not long after that gunshot, Arthur appeared. He was returning from the errand Charlie sent him on. Imagine being 16, coming up a dirt path, humming a Christmas hymn,
Oh.
approaching your home only to see your neighbors on your family's property. They don't appear to be there for a Christmas Day visit. There's no smiles, no singing. Instead, he saw the chaos unfolding. The neighbors were running and shouting, grown men were crying. Arthur observed the staged horrors of his family spread across the farm. You look over to your front porch and you see it stained red as you learn your entire family has been murdered. Arthur was the sole survivor, not by luck, but because Charlie sent him away. It all slammed into him at once, and Arthur collapsed to the ground, grief stricken. Neighbors recalled that he collapsed in grief, overwhelmed by the incomprehensible scale of his family's destruction.
He lost everybody.
But then where's his dad? Where's Charlie? Police and others assemble a search party to try to find him. What happened to Charlie?
I hope he killed himself.
Not far into the woods, they found the troubled father near a cedar tree. His shotgun lay beside him. There was a trampled circular path worn into the ground around the cedar tree. It looked as if he'd been pacing in circles for hours, wrestling with what to do. Some folks say that Charlie paced for so long around that cedar tree, he left his own devil's circle in the dirt, like the devil's tramping ground had come to Stokes County. It was a grim conclusion of the day. That final gunshot that echoed across the Lawson farm not long ago was Charlie. He'd taken his own life. His body was discovered with his faithful hunting dog standing guard at his side. The dog became extremely protective and even growled at people, keeping them from getting too close to Charlie's body. I thought that was sad. In Charlie's pockets were notes to his parents that described his guilt and torment. The exact words were never fully revealed, but many believed he left messages of regret, maybe even explanations for each murder.
What could there have been?
Oh, we'll get there. Arthur's survival would later provide the only first-hand account of the massacre, the sole thread connecting the world to Charlie's final act of madness. Now it's time for the conspiracy sidebar, which is where my brain went. Could Arthur have done it?
The teen?
Yeah. Here's a thought that might keep true crime fans up at night. What if Arthur, the sole surviving Lawson, had done the unthinkable? Could he have killed everyone and framed his father?
No.
On one hand, it's a tempting theory. Arthur was the only one left alive. Convenient, right? He was set on an errand that morning. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't an errand at all. Some whispered that he returned to a perfectly staged massacre, maybe secretly smiling behind the act of shock and grief. Neighbors also reported hearing Charlie's final gunshot from the woods.
I was gonna say, they heard a wound.
Right.
Must have been one sucking chest wound.
Well, they heard the gunshot right before Arthur appeared, and they felt that was awfully convenient timing. But on the other hand, the way the authorities looked at it, Arthur was just a teenager, barely out of childhood. He would have had to ambush his siblings, bludgeon the children, an infant, and shoot his mother.
And I would imagine, like, what's his clothes look like?
Right. Well, and then he also would have had to convincingly kill his father in the woods, all without anybody noticing. Not to mention arranging the bodies.
Well, and if you hear the shot and then he's just strolling up, he's not out of breath, winded, was it the same direction? Like,
It's rumors, so it varies based off of who you talk to.
they're all dead.
Now.
You said based on who I talked to. Well,
Right.
get your Ouija board.
Back in the day, crazy lady. They also stated Arthur's grief was so profound, they swore it was genuine. The evidence being the shotgun shells, the positioning of the body, the timing, the rumors that began, the police decided it all pointed to Charlie. And to the authorities, Arthur was just the unlucky kid who survived the worst Christmas imaginable.
Unlucky, he's putting it light.
The funerals were massive. Over 5,000 people attended. The Lawsons weren't famous by any means, but tragedy has a way of attracting a crowd. Plus, it was the Great Depression and people craved distraction. Morbidly, death was entertainment. Not that I can say much, because if it wasn't entertainment, this podcast wouldn't exist. There are theories, motives, and more rumors on why Charlie may have done it. Doctors speculated that perhaps Charlie's 1927 accident caused enough brain damage to spark paranoia and rage. Some family and neighbors were saying that Charlie just wasn't right in the brain after he done smashed his skull with that axe. Other people blame poverty and the pressure of farming and the suffocating grind of raising 7 kids during the Depression, and maybe he just snapped under the pressure. Now for the darkest theory of all.
And the one you're most excited to tell.
The rumors that spiraled throughout the community was that Marie, his 17-year-old daughter, was pregnant. And not just pregnant, but pregnant by Charlie, her father.
Ew.
According to Fanny's sister-in-laws and aunts, the daughter's mother, Charlie's wife, Fanny, had confided in them a few years prior that she was concerned about a possible incestuous relationship developing between Charlie and their daughter Marie, who at the time was only 15.
Ew.
Here we are, roughly 2 years later, in 1929, just before Christmas. Marie had confided to her friend that she was expecting a baby and that her father was the father.
I wouldn't tell anybody.
Now, no medical reports ever confirmed this, no doctor ever wrote it down, but in small towns, whispers have legs, and this whisper turned into a roar. If it's true, it paints a whole new picture. Charlie wasn't just a man losing his grip, he was a man whose secret was about to come out. Maybe Marie had threatened to tell. Maybe he thought killing her and the rest of the family was the only way to silence his shame. Or maybe Charlie turned his perverted desires onto his younger daughters.
Ew.
Maybe Fanny found out Marie was pregnant and she was pissed. We'll never know the truth, but one thing is clear. This wasn't a random outburst. It was planned, staged, and executed with chilling precision. The Lawson house didn't just fade away. Oh no. People turned it into a tourist attraction. Keep in mind, this was during the Depression. People had no money, were struggling to survive, but they would travel distances far and wide to pay to walk through the blood-stained rooms.
Ew.
You say ew, but you're ready to go sniff blood-soaked cobblestones in Romania, so to each their own.
Whatever. Okay, they're actually going to see
Blood.
Like, actively want to walk where it probably still has a smell.
Oh, it still had a smell because nobody cleaned up the blood. I have pictures. Some tourists even took souvenirs from the house.
Okay, so my level of curiosity and appreciation for history stops right there. I wouldn't be collecting trinkets.
You're not going to bring home a cobblestone?
Oh, look, her hairbrush.
So the family Bible was on display. Even the raisin cake that Fanny had baked for Christmas dinner was left untouched on the table, and tourists would come stare at it like it was an exhibit in a twisted museum. Yeah, let's go pay to gawk at a now moldy raisin bread cake.
I'm surprised nobody took that as a souvenir.
Or ate it before it was disgusting. Songs were written about the murders, including a song titled The Murder of the Lawson Family. It was a haunting ballad that kept the tragedy alive for generations.
And Andrea's gonna sing it.
Sure not. Arthur, the lone surviving son, went on to marry and have children. But fate wasn't done with him. And a real-life Final Destination tragedy, Arthur died in a car accident at the age of 31 in 1945.
Oh.
For decades, the Lawson farm would remain a roadside attraction. It's still one of the most haunting crimes in American history. A Christmas turned crimson, a family portrait turned obituary, and a rural farmhouse turned sideshow.
What happened to the house?
Um,
Because it's not that long ago. It could still be, like, was it ever bulldozed?
I don't know if it was bulldozed, but there's pictures of it. I was going to send them to you. Charlie wanted to preserve his family in memory. He succeeded, but not in a way he imagined. So remember this: North Carolina may be known for its ghostly legends and albino squirrels, but no story haunts quite like the Lawson Family Massacre. Merry pre-Christmas, everybody. And now to send you some pictures. Oh, I almost sent them to my husband.
But I bet he'd be on his best behavior.
So I did clean these up because they were really grainy.
Oh, these are your AI ones.
Shut up. You want to see what it looked like before? I'll send you the befores. All right. I texted them to you.
I think you should post both because
I'm gonna.
they really brushed up these folks.
They really did. But that's Arthur on the left.
He looks a little crazed.
No, that's the son that survived.
Oh.
The dad
This
is
Paul looks a little weird too.
he looks like a pedophile. But then between Arthur and Charlie, that's Marie. And then next to Arthur is his wife.
Yeah. I mean, what a lovely family. Hey, those bangs look familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, they sure do. But that's the picture of the house.
Yeah, typical farmhouse.
Yeah. I just thought it was really disgusting that people went to go and there was just like the blood everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's just like when, I forget what case in the 1800s, when they fished a body out of the lake and they just had it on display, and what was it, hundreds of people came through to see if they could identify the body.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds?
Yeah. It's really disturbing. People have literally nothing better to do with their time back in the day.
Yeah.
That's why they had so many children.
So they had extra?
No, because they were bored, so all they did was have sex.
Oh.
Not so they could lose them.
Well, it was dark times.
I just thought it was kind of sad because,
Kinda?
no, the whole thing's sad, but I thought it was sad that Arthur survives, but then rumors start that he possibly did it. And I wish,
Well, it looks a little suspicious when you're the only one who lives, but
well, and he's bigger than his dad.
it could be a case of that's why he sent him away, because he knew that if he had to take out the oldest, and then the ones that are closest to being like grown, you're outnumbered. I don't know that the females would have been that big of a threat to him, but all it takes is somebody to run off or grab a shotgun. I don't know. But I could see him sending him away because he was his greatest threat.
Or he wanted his family name to live on, and he was the boy.
I don't think he's that deep of a thinker.
Probably not. But I thought it was really sad that he had to deal with the fact that the neighbors started speculating that he possibly done did it.
Who raised him? Like, where did he go after?
I would assume his aunt and uncle, since they lived right there. They were within walking distance, considering that the two little girls were headed over to go say good morning for Christmas. But talk about tragedy after tragedy, because he's got to spend the rest of his teen years hearing all the whispers and rumors.
Well, I don't know. I feel like he probably didn't go out much. So he probably didn't hear it all because he didn't want to hear it all.
He went out enough that he got married, had children.
Yeah, but he could have gone out of the area.
Yeah.
People don't know who he is.
They knew. I'm pretty sure he stayed in the area.
You don't know.
Pretty sure.
But you don't know.
Fine. But that's all I've got on the Lawson Family Massacre.
Thanks for that. This is messed up.
I don't know of any story that's like, yay, that we tell on here. Maybe the one with the penis falls off. That's the only one that's not tragic.
You're the only one who was excited about that one.
Well, it's the only one that wasn't super tragic. He got a bigger penis.
It's not tragic to you. I feel like it's tragic to the people who have penises.
Except for the men that have the micro penises, because then they can identify with him in the sense that he got to negotiate what size wiener they created for him.
And he got to wave it around on his arm for a bit.
Yeah. I just saw those pictures on our Facebook page the other day. I was like, ugh, how's that not blurred out? That's all I've got. Merry Christmas. Almost.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.